Welcome to June 12, 2012, the regular scheduled meeting in the Rossmoor Community Services District. Mrs. Deering, would you please give us a roll call?
Director Casey?
Here.
Director Kaler?
Here.
Director Maynard?
Here.
Director Rips?
Here.
President Coletta?
Here. Would you please join us as we pledge our allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll proceed to our presentation. We have one this evening from Orange County Transportation Authority. Mr. Trabota, you want to lead us off with that, please?
Mr. President, members of the board, Ms. Sarah Swenson, who is the outreach manager for OCTA, is here to share with you the latest developments with regard to the West County Connector project and its impacts, upcoming impacts, if you will, with regard to the takedown of the Seal Beach overpass on the I-405 freeway and the 12-day closure of the I-405-605 tunnel. So, with your permission.
Welcome.
Great, thank you. Just want to say good evening. My name is Sarah Swenson. I'm the Senior Community Relations Officer at the Orange County Transportation Authority. You may recognize Christina Byrne from past presentations. She's been a fantastic outreach liaison for this project, and she's actually transitioning full-time to the I-405 improvement project as I've been transitioning in over the last few months. I'd also like to introduce at this moment Dennis Mack, who is also at OCTA. He's the new project manager that will be spearheading our technical team, and we'll be working closely with Henry and then the other community representatives for the West County Connectors project.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. All right. So one of the major construction activities that is coming to a close is the Valley View Street bridge reconstruction. Work on the east half of the bridge was completed in November 2011, and then crews demolished the western half of that bridge in December 2011. But most recently, we just completed a 55-hour closure this past weekend. The road was reopened at 4:54 a.m. on Monday morning. The bridge was restriped to the final configuration, 3 northbound lanes with a sidewalk and an 8-foot shoulder, and 2 southbound lanes with 2 left turn lanes going towards eastbound Garden Grove Boulevard. During the remaining of this week, crews will be removing some of the false work on the western portion of that bridge, and the entire structure is actually scheduled to be complete by Monday morning on June 18th. In addition, some of the crews, you may have realized, actually have removed some of the lighting on the 405 freeway in the center median, and that's to accommodate and begin work on the 22405 HOV connector. Moving towards the west segment of the West County Connectors project is our next major construction activity, which is a total reconstruction of the Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge. This construction activity will take approximately 23 months, and our crews will be dividing that up into 2 phases. The first phase will take place over the first 11 months, and we'll be actually shifting our traffic over to the eastern half of the bridge while we reconstruct the western portion of the bridge. It's very similar to the same activities that have gone on with Valley View Street, just now over on Seal Beach Boulevard. Just to note, we know that this is a major impact. As part of the first stage, the traffic, when it's shifted over to the east segment of that bridge, there will be 1 lane in each direction with a 11-foot center median that's dedicated solely for our emergency services vehicles. So again, as we know that that's an impact, I think it's important to note that our contractor is incentivized to complete the work as quickly as possible, and they will be penalized if the first stage of construction exceeds the 11 months that we've stated here. The second phase will take place over the recurring 12 months, and that is when the bridge will actually be restored back to 2 lanes in each direction. So then we will shift traffic from the eastern portion of the bridge over to the western side, which is really newly constructed, as we then complete the work on the eastern half. The final configuration of the bridge will be 4 northbound lanes and 3 southbound lanes, and the bridge will be completed in 2014. The next few slides are really just showing a sequence of our construction activity. As you see here, this is the existing bridge right now with 3 northbound lanes and 2 southbound lanes. And then again, we'll be shifting traffic over to the eastern portion of the bridge, reconstructing the western half first. The top illustration just demonstrates that we can't accommodate new lanes on the 405 without actually reconstructing the bridge. So there will be demolition work, and we understand the impacts if there's night work, if there are closures, but we'll get into a little more of our outreach efforts further on in the presentation. Oh, yes.
What about the bike lanes when you come down to 3 lanes? Are you still going to have bicycle lanes? Because I know a lot of people use them on weekends.
That's a great question. During the first stage of construction, we won't have a dedicated bike lane, but we are, part of our messages with our outreach efforts is to make sure that we communicate to our motorists to share the road with our bicycle commuters. And then once it is reconstructed, I believe there will be a dedicated bike lane on the western half of the bridge. I'm not quite sure on the actual, which direction it would be, what side of the bridge, but that will be accommodated. The second stage, as you see here, will then, which is the remaining 12 months of construction, we will reshift traffic back over to the western half of the bridge and then complete the construction on the eastern half. As I mentioned earlier, final configuration of the bridge will be, will be 4 northbound lanes and 3 southbound lanes. And as you can see here, I know the image looks a little funny because the bridge is much larger than the other sides of Seal Beach Boulevard, but we are working closely with the city of Seal Beach to make sure that we can accommodate the new growth. Now, as part of the project, we've had a very robust communications outreach effort, working closely with our city representatives, our local communities, neighborhood groups, our emergency services personnel, and then definitely our general commuters and the general public. So one of the things that we're going to be featuring on our website is a Google map specifically for Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge reconstruction. And right now it's color-coded as you see. It's not a live link just yet, but viewers will have the chance to click on each of these links and actually determine the different parameters of lane closures or of the lane reductions, if you will. So, for instance, on the northbound section, lane reduction will begin at Northgate Road and continue until motorists cross over the 405 freeway. So something that viewers can just go to our website, click on one of the highlighted lines, and then a pop-up bubble to give a little more information. Now, while Seal Beach Bridge is under construction, especially during the first 11 months, we're definitely encouraging our commuters to use alternate routes while this is under construction. These routes are highlighted in blue on this slide and include Studebaker Road and Valley View Street and Bolsa Chica. As we get closer, and actually I don't know that I mentioned this, but construction for Seal Beach Boulevard will occur after the 4th of July holiday, so we're estimating mid-July. We're already starting our outreach efforts, and this detour map has been available so far on our website, in our email communications, and certainly it'll be in our press release when we move forward with our media relations efforts. It is also important to note that our contractors made a main effort to really not have the Valley View Street Bridge under construction while Seal Beach was under construction. So as I mentioned, Valley View will be completed this weekend, giving commuters about a month to get familiarized and oriented with the new final configuration of the bridge, and then we will begin our construction activities for Seal Beach. Some of the community outreach that we've been doing so far for Seal Beach Bridge outreach are some city council briefings. Last night we presented to the city of Seal Beach. We are here with you tonight, and then we'll be presenting to the Los Alamitos City Council next Monday. We hosted an emergency services briefing yesterday. We had about 20 representatives from our healthcare stakeholders, our fire departments, our police departments, the sheriffs, and also our CHP, and it was actually a very, I think, a great discussion that we had because we do have one lane down the middle in the first phase dedicated solely for emergency services vehicles, so we were able to make sure we brought everybody to the table and discuss any concerns that they may have. Another part of our community outreach is Los Alamitos Unified School District. What they have existing with their own communications efforts is an e-blast that they send out, so we developed something for them, and it actually goes out to nearly 10,000 families and almost 1,000 faculty. So we really make sure that we can get our word and communicate that there may be delays with detours, there may be impacts with construction and a lot of more congestion in the area. And in a previous construction activity, there was coordination with the district director of bus operations, and they actually accommodated the school schedules to start 10 minutes later than originally planned to allow for the excess traffic. So we're hoping to definitely have that discussion again with the bus operations as well. This slide is just showing the intra-agency coordination specifically that we had with our emergency services personnel. As you can see, we had a lot of representation, and we're hoping for a smooth, seamless transition as we move forward.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I note on the right column, Long Beach Fire Department was noticed, obviously, to the extent they service this community for ambulance paramedic service versus fire, or both. And then Los Alamitos Medical Center was obviously apprised as well.
Yes.
Any thought of giving Long Beach Memorial Medical Center notice of the restrictions in this area? It's my view that there are some families that are subscribed in their HMOs to be admitted to Long Beach Memorial as opposed to Los Alamitos. I was wondering what, if anything, you could do to bridge that gap. I know there's basically landlocked in this season of 2 years of construction, which is needed. But I'm wondering what can be crafted to facilitating transfer of patients to Long Beach Memorial Center under the circumstances, as opposed to suggesting inferentially, if not explicitly, only Los Alamitos Medical Center is the only avenue available for assistance.
Sure, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't provide an answer.
No, you can't.
But we can definitely engage in that dialogue. I know that something that came out of our meeting yesterday was definitely providing some information for your local access channels. Los Alamitos has one, Seal Beach, and definitely Rossmoor, and creating some sort of public service announcement. And even though we do have so many other outreach efforts, it's things like this that people bring new ideas. So we'll be happy to create that dialogue and start that discussion with them. The next slide is just showing a timeline of some of the future closures that are coming up. The eastbound 22, southbound 405 connector will be closed for approximately 12 days, and it's tentatively scheduled for mid to late July. And we don't have a specific date at this time, but we do know that it's coming up in the foreseeable future. The northbound 405, northbound 605 connector will be a 55-hour closure, similar to what we've had on a lot of the other freeway connectors lately, and we definitely make sure we alert the traffic reporters and our commuters, utilizing all of our email communications. This will take place over 2 to 3 consecutive weekends, and it's tentatively shown on our schedule for late July, early August. The eastbound 22, northbound 405 connector will be a 12-month closure, and that's currently scheduled for late July and early August as well. That was a concern that was brought up yesterday at the City of Seal Beach. Someone said 12 months closing this connector, that seems like a very long time. But just for your information, that average daily traffic is about 3,000 vehicles, so it's pretty low frequency, and we do have a number of detour routes available for that.
So where is that eastbound 22, northbound 405?
That's coming out of Long Beach on 7th Street and just then looping to the left on the northbound 405, similar to the reverse of the 7th Street.
So it's closed for a year then?
Yes, that will be closed for 1 year. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Popular connector.
Not that much.
I love it.
The 605 will be open, though. There's two off-ramps, one to the 605, one to the 405. Half of it will still be operational.
The next slide, I think, is something that is really important to our community that we wanted to emphasize here in this presentation. Our project team has developed a plan to allow for the work of a 12-day connector closure for the tunnel connector, the southbound 605, southbound 405 connector. This will actually take place after the first phase of the Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge reconstruction, so at least 1 year from July that we can expect that.
But that means that there will be one lane in each direction on Seal Beach Boulevard
No.
when you do that, is that true?
No. This will be during stage 2 when the bridge is then restored to back to 2 lanes in each direction.
Oh, great. Because when it said completion of the first stage, I thought that meant stage 1, when it's 1 lane in each direction, so that's my misunderstanding.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand the major impacts, not only to reducing the Seal Beach Boulevard Bridge into 1 lane in each direction, but then in addition, trying to coordinate all the other construction activities as part of this West County Connectors project. So we did work really closely with our project team internally, and then of course with our contractors to see how we could best accommodate this.
Good.
As we get closer to this date, obviously we're more than a year out from now, we will be promoting this extensively to make sure all of the local communities and the commuters know about this connector closure. This next slide is just showing the detour routes that will be used for the southbound 605, southbound 405 connector closure. Traffic will be redirected to the 405 along several routes, including southbound Los Alamitos Boulevard and Seal Beach Boulevard, and then Woodruff Avenue and southbound Studebaker Road that is shown on this map. This slide is just showing some of the activity that we've been doing here in Rossmoor and then definitely throughout our community. Our outreach efforts in each of the community have been very extensive. We have emailed communications. We've emailed communications at least twice a week at a minimum, and then we also have community events that we've held within this area since the project inception. On another note, we sincerely appreciate your representation, actually. We have a weekly traffic meeting that's held every Monday, and Henry is always present to make sure that he keeps your community apprised of what's coming up and any concerns that your community may be having that he can share with our project team. So I just want to say thank you for our coordination.
Sarah, you might also include the RHA, who's also present at these meetings.
Yes, I don't want to forget them. The Homeowners Association is also present, and we appreciate your representation. Our final slide is just showing that our information is online, and we update our website almost daily depending on the information that's available. And I'll welcome any questions if you have any. Yes.
I'm sure you've thought of this, but you folks are going to be coordinating traffic signals from downtown Seal Beach all the way through Los Al, Long Beach, because I know that kind of straddles the Orange County LA border. Mm-hmm. And so the agencies are speaking and saying how we're going to handle the flow of traffic?
Yes, that was actually mentioned at at yesterday's emergency services vehicle. We will be having our signal crews out there, and they'll actually be monitoring traffic patterns and then working with the city traffic signals in order to coordinate best any cars queuing up on on-ramps and off-ramps, and then even further back into the communities. And that will be an ongoing effort in coordinating as best as possible as the progression of the construction goes along. Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Henry, I've got a question for you on that. Thank you. Obviously, when they're routing traffic through down Los Al Boulevard, we will feel that impact coming through our neighborhood. Do we have the ability to call in extra sheriff's patrols to catch people that are going 40 miles an hour and 50 miles an hour through like a track to go and avoid the traffic?
Director Kahlert, I met with Captain Doan of the Orange County Sheriff's Department, who has responsibility for Rossmoor, and we had a very good discussion about the potential for cut-through traffic through Rossmoor, et cetera. And he also, or his representative, were present at this public safety meeting that occurred yesterday. And we'll continue to work with him to make sure that we get the kind of coverage we need to try to offset some of the impacts that are going to occur, because they will occur.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right, seeing no further comments, then we'll proceed. We have no additions to the agenda this evening. Why don't we move to public forum? This is where the residents have an opportunity to address the board concerning matters we have oversight over. However, please take note that we are not allowed to take any action. We can, at the end of the meeting, direct it as a board member item to the manager for consideration for future agendizing and discussion. If you are pleased to step forward, give us your first and last name and where you reside, and welcome to approach the podium and address the board. If you mind pulling the microphone down as close as you can to your chin, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Sophia Bean, and I came last month.
Sweetheart, could you just come up a little closer, as close as you can?
Yeah.
Kathy, could you help her bring the mic a little closer so we can hear her, so we can capture everything she wants to state? Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, dear.
Just hold it for Emily.
I'm Sophia Bean, and I came last month for the trees and I wanted to follow up and see if you guys have made a decision, and if not, what needs to happen for it to be voted on.
I'm glad you came back. We have not agendized it, number one, and it's not on the agenda this evening. And we have taken consideration of your request. I believe your request was you wanted to continue climbing the trees in the park along with your friends, and that's all fun. But I think the issue there is at the base of the tree, there isn't sufficient padding for us to be feeling really good about girls or boys climbing trees and not injuring themselves if they unwittingly fell. And the grass beneath is probably not sufficient to absorb, falling. We don't know how far you could climb up or how far you might fall from the tree. So I think we're probably not going to able to support your request. But you know what? I think it's a lot of fun. I know you probably have some trees in the neighborhood, like in your backyard or front yard, that is on your mom or dad's property, or maybe a friend in the community or some other area. But in the parks, we don't like to have people fall, and that's the concern. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the only reason why we're not able to, join in your request and allow it.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you for coming again. Anyone else? All right, then we'll move to the report to the board. Mr. Chabot, would you like to address the first item?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, item D1 is a report on the 2012-2013 preliminary budget, and particularly just perhaps amendments to that proposed budget. As required by your policy, I presented you with the preliminary budget at your last May meeting, and there was lively discussion about some of the issues that were present within that document. I took those issues and asked the Budget Committee to review those, and we held a meeting on June 5th and talked about these issues and with recommendations to the board. As part of your agenda package, attachment number 2 is a recap of the meeting on June 5th with the recommendations of the Budget Committee to the board. The first one that was taken up was the 4th of July spectacular contribution, and that a contribution of $6,200 that has been traditional as Rossmoor's participation in the 4th of July fireworks show with the cities of Seal Beach, Los Alamitos, and Cypress. There was some discussion about whether or not it was appropriate for the district to continue to fund that, given that we were led to believe that the other cities were breaking even and were in fact even covering their costs, whilst Rossmoor was only contributing and did not recover its costs. The cities of Cypress and Los Alamitos provided the committee with updated information, budget information on revenue and expenditures for that event, and it does appear that it does only just break even. And so the recommendation of the committee was that the board continue to fund the event, at least for one more year, to see whether or not the participation is relevant to the citizens of Rossmoor and to the district. The other issue that was addressed was the televising of board meetings on LATV3 with the city of Los Alamitos. That matter was moved to the special board meeting of June 9th and discussed by the board, and basically that matter was tabled for pending further evaluation of, again, the value to the community to pay the city of Los Alamitos for transmitting or broadcasting that meeting on LATV3. So there was no decision reached on that matter. Another item discussed was the rehabilitation of the Rush Park parking lot. And the discussion really centered around what program year was the project to be scheduled for. Previous discussions with the CIP committee had indicated that the project would be funded in 2013-14 and 2014-15 in 2 segments to provide sufficient funding to pay for the project in each of those fiscal years. An item that was brought forward at the previous board meeting, was that perhaps because of the current economic environment and interest rates, that it might be wiser to move that project into the next fiscal year. Well, that presented an issue then as to whether or not there were sufficient funds to pay for that project in the next fiscal year, and whether or not it would require financing or paying cash or a combination of both. So that really is the issue that is before you in terms of creating, for me, a final budget for you to adopt at your July meeting. If you consent to keeping it in the 13-14, 14-15 fiscal year, there really is no decision to be made because it's not part of this year's budget adoption. If, on the other hand, you want to move it into into next fiscal year, then the discussion as to how to pay for it becomes relevant. That really is the only outstanding budget issue that I think needs to be addressed this evening, and for us to be able to prepare a final budget for your July meeting. Also, you're being asked to approve a notice of public hearing for your July meeting. That's required by policy and by state law. And if the board agrees that there's sufficient information for us to proceed to a final budget, we can calendar that for your July board meeting. If, on the other hand, you want further study or discussion on any subject or any items outstanding, you can have the public, again. You're able to have that public hearing at your August meeting if you needed to do so, but you must adopt a budget by the end of August. Stand ready to answer your questions.
All right, I'd like to start out here. D1 is a presentation of the Budget Committee's suggestion, and then an H1, which is to follow this evening, is your report regarding a proposed fiscal year 2012-2013
Correct.
budget. I think, so does it, for me, that doesn't get lost. I'd like to hear...
Mr. President, you could move this item over to I think it's H1, and to have that discussion along with the rest of the budget.
So you propose we handle the discussion on H1 then?
Sir?
Is that what you're proposing? We save the questions for H1?
If it makes it simpler for you to deal with it that way? Or?
All right, the committee can address it now or later, doesn't matter. I just want to get their consensus of what they're recommending and why, how they formed their thoughts.
You want to go or do you want me to go?
How about you go and I'll chime in?
Okay. So
Start with the first one, the fireworks.
So basically, the committee, we felt that we wanted to represent, we wanted our community to be represented as an equal to the other 3 communities within the fireworks presentation. And it was important if we are trying to move forward and if we're trying to get latent powers and we really are trying to say that this is who we are, that we didn't want to take that step back. And I think we had originally said 2,500 was the original thing, and then on further conversation and also an understanding that they really are looking at sort of a balanced budget, that they're not looking to, the other communities are not looking to reap a benefit from this.
Can I interrupt you right there?
Can I
interrupt you right there?
Of course.
With regards to your beliefs, Mr. Kaler's belief that this is truly to make ends meet, meaning balance and kind of make a wash as opposed to making a profit. Are the two of you convinced that what has been submitted by
Los Alamitos?
Los Alamitos convinces you that sufficient documentation supports that inference?
The other aspect of it, the other side of the equation is we've invested money in branding ourselves with the Rossmoor signs in front of our community as well. So we're going down this strategy and this path of branding our community. And I feel that if we're going to do those signs, which we all agree on, to build esprit de corps and to kind of build like this is the community, and if we're in a $4,000 debate over should we or shouldn't we, you know, there's a whole lot of numbers coming out of like Los Al. Do I 100% believe them?
That's my question.
I want to believe them. I think it's a pretty elaborate cover-up if it's fake, because there's a lot of backup and documentation and numbers and gyrations and gymnastics that they've gone through to make them look real. I don't know. So I want to believe that stuff.
I think the one unknown to it that I'm not sure there's any way to really quantify now is that they're going after donations, and if they're more successful than they hope, then there is gonna be money there that they're gonna utilize for the next year's, they'll roll it over to the next work show. If there's less donations, then they have a chance of losing money. I mean, there is that risk there, and it's just that part of it that's in the budget. There's really no way to know for sure what they're going to get in terms of I think the rest of it, is they're pretty legit on their numbers in terms of the budget that they put forward to, but there's no way to know about donations.
That's my feeling. And the reason I bring it up, there was discussion last month, perhaps even a month and a half ago, wherein there was a concern perhaps that this might be an enterprise, and that, well, let's be transparent, we didn't want to be hoodwinked, and to not getting the benefits as they might, or anyone else would in a similar situation. So that's why I raised the question.
Yep.
Because I have not been a part of that committee. I don't know if either of you or Mr. Chabotto or all three of you have interfaced with the city manager there.
I have not. I believe Mr. Tabata has on some level.
The question was?
Have you, besides what was submitted by Los Alamitos to us, to understand their financial position to continue with the fireworks, have you engaged the city manager of Los Alamitos to really walk away with a feeling that this is truly a situation where we should step up and continue the donation, or we should, bring it back a bit?
Mr. President, members of the board, at this point, I think it's purely a policy decision, because I think that the numbers speak for themselves. I have no reason to question my colleagues in either city that they would submit any data that wasn't factual. The thing that I think makes it for me is that if there is more revenue than expense, it rolls over, to the following year. So there is no profit, basically. It just makes the following year's program somewhat simpler to put on.
What was the carryover from last year to this year, or are they in the negative right now?
The carryover for 2010 was $8,020. The 2011, I'm sorry, but my throat's just not working today. Carryover for 2011 was $2,278, and the projected carryover for next year is almost $5,000.
Thanks.
And that's factoring in, they say that they're in a break-even situation, except that they have to pay for the personnel costs, I guess, both prior and for the event itself. And I had a hard time in reading the document figuring out what those costs are.
Well, they basically cover their basic core costs for personnel, but not their overhead.
Okay, so even though they have a carryover, it's still costing them some monies
Oh,
for
absolutely.
this
Yes.
event?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I also agree that for our community, we should definitely do the $6,200. There's not many things that we collaborate on with these communities. This is one of the few, and I believe that we should continue it.
Yeah, that's true about the whole concept of tradition. How long have we been doing this?
I've been here 6 years. That's as far back as I go.
There's a lot to say about tradition. And obviously on a great holiday as well. So I understand where the committee's coming from in their recommendation.
All right, then with regards to anything else the committee suggests here, any other comments the committee wants to make for the record before we proceed to H1? Any foundation
Parking lot.
beyond what we've heard?
I'm sorry.
Any other foundation beyond what we've heard?
I think that it's pretty,
Okay.
I mean, I think what's written here is pretty accurately states that, I think it's pretty good.
The recommendation of the committee was basically that we engage Mr. Russ Lightcap to meet with the CIP committee and to go over with him the reports that have been submitted by another consultant to validate the assumptions and the cost factors. Mr. Lightcap has reviewed the document, he concurs with it, and is more than happy to meet with the CIP committee as soon as you two committee members are available. And if the project is not going to be scheduled for next fiscal year, then we have plenty of time to deal with the actual mechanics and the various components of that project.
Meaning fiscal year 2013, 2014.
Right.
There's plenty of time, you're right. All right, then this is just to receive report, and then we'll proceed then to our next item then?
Well, actually, if you've approved, it appears that there's consensus on the 4th of July, and if there is,
Do we need to make a motion on that?
I think that way we can factor it into the budget for next year.
So I make a motion to approve the full expenditure for the LoSal fireworks of $6,200, whatever the CIP recommended.
I'll second.
I know. You're too quick there, Ron. It's fine. I'll
Sometimes.
accept a second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposing, motion carries. All right, now our next presentation is D2. Report.
President, members of the board, we have pulled item D2 from the agenda because we still have pending issues that are could be of a particularly have legal issues associated with them. And on advice of counsel, we have pulled this item and we'll speak about it at a future date.
Okay. Then we'll proceed to the consent calendar. There are 2 items composing the consent calendar. Is there a board member that wishes to remove one of those items from the consent calendar for discussion? Consists of the minutes and the April revenue and expense report. All right, hearing none, then we're going to call for the question concerning the consent calendar. All in favor of those 2 items as submitted for the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No one opposes, motion carries.
Mr. President, the board minutes for the special board meeting of June 9th will be on your next month's agenda. There wasn't sufficient time to create those and get them onto your agenda.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have no public hearing and no resolutions. Now we go to the regular calendar, H1.
Mr. President, members of the board, the submission of the proposed budget in the June timeframe is simply to deal with any amendments or additions or corrections to what has been presented to you. As part of the Budget Committee's review, we've dealt with those items, and we're prepared to move ahead with a final budget based on those decisions. And we'd like you to set the date of hearing for the July meeting to allow the public a last opportunity to basically speak on the budget and to give you their input so that we can wrap this up at that time. Stand ready to answer any questions or just deal with any issues that's part of this year's budget.
Anyone have comments concerning H1?
As part, Mr. President, members of the board, we had a discussion during the Budget Committee review. Since we're not going to, since we're going to deal with the parking lot issue, we're going to make the assumption that the parking lot project will not be part of next year's fiscal year unless at the July meeting we're asked to bring it back for further review at the subsequent meeting. So unless you want to make a decision on that tonight, which I don't think is really on the table.
Make a decision on
what year to place that parking lot project on.
Well, right now you have it as 2013, 14 in half the installment, and 2014, 2015 the other half of the installment. When you go to page 162 of 223. So that's how it's being presented tonight.
Correct. And of course the issue was if you move it to 2012, 2013, then you also have to deal with how to pay for it.
Right.
Have to deal with what, I'm sorry?
How to pay for it.
Well, let me ask this question. Maybe there's an obvious answer, but just let me ask. How are we going to pay for it in 2013, 2014? And you got the other half on 2014, 2015. Why would the economic climate for this district be different in a year and a half from now than next year?
Well, the assumptions have always been that we split the project in two to be able to gather as much capital as we could in those 2 fiscal years to hopefully be able to pay for the project. And the other assumption was that if we couldn't, then we would bring to you a proposal for debt financing of the project.
How do you split the project in two?
All you do is just fund it in 2 separate years.
So you set the money aside, basically. You earmark.
Correct.
And I believe I read that it was the opinion or one opinion of the committee that they would like to accelerate doing this project and possibly postponing certain other CIP projects in order to do that?
That was part of the discussion. I was asked, what other ways could we pay for it? Because part of the issue for me was that if we tried to pay for it cash, that it creates cash flow problems for us.
I would think so.
Much like it did when we did the refunding, paying down of the Rush Park bonds.
Yep.
So that was an issue. Then the discussion then went to, what if we did no other projects in 12, 13 and used the money that's set aside for those projects? Could we pay for it? And the answer to that was, with the carryover from this year and what's projected for next year, there would be sufficient funds to pay cash for this project next year. But you'd have to forestall every other project on your...
I understand, and that's not real desirable, but...
Well, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Go for it.
Director Casey. When that plan first came back, I think probably like a lot of people, it was it's 350 to 400,000 plus, we don't know. And then we get a revised, and that was when it was, oh geez, we really can't afford this. We need to look at some debt financing. We need to spread it out over several years, et cetera. Then we get a revised estimate back, and it's sort of a game changer now, because it's not.
That's a lot less.
400,000. It's substantially less, and it's then you start to look at, wow, if we don't replace the temporary picnic canopy, and we don't do a baseball field, and we don't do these nice-to-have projects, and this is almost a need-to-have, then why would we be putting it off? It's just something that I don't think we can not talk about in some greater detail.
So, I mean, from the Budget Committee standpoint, and clearly this has to go to the CIP in terms of getting it vetted and making sure, we were saying if it is a need to redo the parking lot, and we can save money by either, if we have to debt finance, do it now when rates are probably lower, or if we can get to do it where we don't have to debt finance and we can actually pay for it and save ourselves those interest fees, then we're doing something better for the district. And so in that realm, we were saying, let's move it up. And there was only one real need in the next fiscal year's projects, the tot lot, which is something that's for code requirements, correct?
ADA and,
ADA requirements that has to be done. The other ones we definitely want to do. I mean, it's something we've had, but could be moved to a later year, and we take care of the needs that we have for the community before we start doing those wants. So that was really from the budget committee, and that's why we said, you know, that's what we think, but we don't know as a budget committee if it really is a need, and that's why we wanted to go back to the CIP and have Russ Lightcap come and really let us know from his expertise.
I mean, it's not a sexy project, you know, it's not putting up canopies and lights and HVAC, but if we're doing our duty to the community, maybe it's something that needs to be like, okay, you know, it's a maintenance issue, and you just have to do these things, and
Right.
To me, it
so,
seems like a little
struggle
bit,
with it.
it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. On
Yeah.
one end, you've got a capital improvement committee who needs to flush out what this is, but we also need to adopt a budget.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you say what the need is, my first comment is needs sometimes have different timelines. Do we need to do this right now, or do we have enough infrastructure engineering in place right now that we could put this off 2 years and start, you know, saving up like families save up for vacations and start cutting some things so we don't have to maybe have as much debt. So that's at least where my point of view is.
Well, and they're actually, and we weren't commenting when the need and really had to take place.
Okay.
But if we put it off for 2 years and it's starting to cost the district money, then are we better off doing it now? Not that the need, maybe yeah, we do have the infrastructure and the engineering in place in our parking lot that'll last 2 more years, or maybe 3 years. But if it's going to cost us more money, or if we do end up having to debt finance, it's going to cost us more that way. And so we were just looking at it specifically from that realm, that if we are going to have to do this project, it is a large project, what would be the most economical time mean to do it for the district? And that was just purely where that was coming from.
A couple of comments to ride on your coattail a bit. When I look at what's proposed for the tot lot, you know, for 2011, 2012, there was a $5,000 forecast for Rossmoor Park. There's nothing projected for 2012 and 2013 or years that follow for Rossmoor Park.
Mr. Coletta, could you speak into the microphone?
I'm on page 162 of 223. If we look at the calendar years above the top head note, and then look at the left margin, you see Rossmoor Park.
Right here.
All right, so we're concerned about ABA requirements being fulfilled. So for 2011, 2012, there was budgeted $5,000 for Rossmoor Park, but yet for following years, 2012, 13, 14, and out, there's nothing forecast. Is that accurate, that there is nothing to be done at Rossmoor Park as far as compliance with ABA requirements? You're nodding your head, Emily, there's nothing to do there, really?
That's correct.
Can you come to the mic so I can have you share with the audience what you're doing? You're just nodding your head.
We hired a certified playground inspector to inspect the playgrounds, and he concluded that Rossmoor Park is in compliance.
Okay.
There are some, there was a sand issue that we didn't have enough sand, that's been added. And then certain areas, the width isn't there for the surfacing for a wheelchair to turn, but it's not a priority one issue.
All right, so it's not going to shut down the park,
No,
basically?
no.
All right, if you would remain just for a second,
Sure.
Emily, because I want to jump to Rush Park, and that's where the next area where we see tot lots, equipment, and for 2011, 2012, again, approximately $5,000, $4,800 is forecast. And then I see nothing for 2012, 13, and 14 years out. But then when I look under pour-in-place rubber resurfacing, I'm presuming for the tot lot at Rush Park, for 2012, 2013, we're asking $28,700 basically to cause it to be safe for the children to fall onto. So I presume
Correct.
it's an ABA requirement that it has more padding than we have.
Yes, sand is not a reasonable surface.
It used to be, but no longer.
Correct.
That's a 2014 requirement, though, isn't it, Emily?
Yeah, by 2014, by January 2014.
Okay. And then just so I kind of get the feel of the committee, when you were thinking maybe if we advance the parking lot repaving at Rush Park, the priorities that seem to be competing are really the ABA compliance requirements for the tot lots. Everything else seems to be discretionary in the sense that
Yeah.
there's nothing really mandatory. They're nice renovations, but there's nothing that really appears to be mandatory.
Correct. All the other projects, we thought we could extend out. That project, it has to be done.
Okay. And then with regards to just keeping that train of thought for a moment, that there might be the need to advance it economically.
That's what we're thinking.
Okay. So we've gone along that vein now. Was any thought given to not replacing the entirety of the Rush Park parking lot, but doing a repair as opposed to a full, complete demo?
I haven't, I mean, I know Mr. Taboada has approved to do some patching in the past year or so. You can go see the,
There
Well, I'm
was
aware of
some
that.
conversation about it, and there is some concern, and this is where, I need to hear somebody, but it was, if the longer we wait and the more water that can seep under it, will eventually cause more damage to that structure, will eventually cost more than the longer we wait, that's the potential danger.
Mr. President, members of the board, if the parking lot had been properly built in the first place, and only portions of it needed repair instead of replacement, you could possibly do that kind of repair work. But when this was laid, there was insufficient asphalt laid out, and that's why you have the problems you have now. So if you do the east end or the south end or whatever end of the parking lot you want to do, you'd still have the issues that the other half would still be in if not right away, soon to be compromised.
I would relish hearing from Mr. Rush Lightcap. I don't know of any other person in the community that has the pavement construction experience, asphalt and concrete, than he. I don't know of anyone else. And the reason I say that is he lives here. I mean, it's not our money; it's his money too. And I really relish his point of view if he feels. I mean, I've read the reports. That's part of the materials tonight, as far as the testing, the borings that were done in the past.
yeah.
But that's his language.
That's why we didn't want to make a decision, but we felt it was important to recommend that it go back to the CIP and that he would come and speak to that committee and really vet it out so that they would understand.
That
and be able
committee's
to come back.
open to the public to go to that meeting, correct?
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the CIP meeting. So I think that's where that discussion would take place with Mr. Lightcap and.
Mr. President, members
talk
of the
about that
board,
topic.
it seems as if the two issues of the CIP committee versus the budget committee have overlap. And it might be difficult to try to articulate one committee to the board, the other committee to the board, and come to some sort of consensus. An option would be to have a committee of the whole, basically, and have a special board meeting and deal with it that way with Mr. Lightcap, so that when you're concluded with your deliberation, you have a decision that everyone hears the same information.
Well, whether it's a special meeting like that or Mr. Lightcap comes here next month, I just think that I would like to hear justification for removal of the entirety of the parking lot. I've read everything. I understand the economics, truly. I was just raised a bit differently. I share with Mr. Taboada, if my shoes required heels as opposed to soles and heels, rather than just discarding the entirety of the shoe, I would put the new heels on before I discarded them, or even removing the entirety of the sole and the heel, and I would wear them longer. That's the way I think.
Yeah.
And as much as I hear what you're saying with regards to the deterioration of the parking lot, I see it. I'm just concerned that the concern necessarily applies through the entirety of the parking lot. If there is penetration beneath this asphalt, that it's really going to degrade, say, the north corner from the south corner and in a rate that's really not apparent to the eye. And I don't understand that. If it could happen, maybe it does. There's a heavy rainfall, and it's for a certain period of time, and the saturation doesn't exist, and it's just pouring everywhere. And I don't know. I'm just asking the questions because it's a big project, because we're considering debt financing, and I hate debt financing. I dislike it, but money's cheap by comparison to what it might be. As they say, we're expected to have inflation, so I don't want to be foolish to not consider it, but I just like to have more of a foundation. And I think that the community would like to see that we properly vetted it If either path.
And vetting goes both ways of also, if we, and this is where maybe it's a hybrid, the last thing I want to do is take $250,000 to $300,000 of cash flow and all of a sudden become like other agencies who actually have to borrow money to meet payroll.
Oh, no.
So there's
a balance.
there is a balance
Yeah.
here. So I think part of our due diligence is finding out how much this really costs, when do we have to do it, trying to navigate that, but also before suggesting not to do public debt, I'd want to know, well, how much cash do we believe we need because of how the county pays us?
Correct.
And once that is satisfied, how much do we actually want to put down in cash, and then the rest finance? Because no one wants, I would never want to actually do debt financing on the entire product, because the whole project there, that's a lot of money in debt and interest payments versus maybe a hybrid.
Well, if we
but
do-
I want to make sure that the administration of our district has the cash flow to actually run business and be able to survive. So that's where at least I'm coming from.
Mr.
I
President,
saw your hand back there.
Mr. President, before you go to the public, I'm still struggling with the logistics of this, because even if we have a CIP committee meeting and Mr. Lightcap makes his presentation and the committee makes a recommendation to the board, I have to have a budget to present to you at your July meeting at a public hearing that you're going to adopt or amend on the spot. If you're prepared to amend that budget at that public hearing, then it's not a problem. But if you want to, we may not be able to finalize this prior to the July public hearing, in which case you'd have to deal with the budget again in August. So if that's...
And we need to have the budget approved in July, correct?
No, sir.
No.
We typically adopt it in July, but you have until the August meeting for a final adoption, but we've only done that once since I've been here, but you can do it. That's the only consideration, and that's why I suggested perhaps a meeting of the committee of the whole, so that you could make that decision, direct me to formulate the budget, and then simply present it to the public in July. Or you...
If we have to do a motion, I would support that motion that we all have a special meeting, so we all get to hear. So because there's two of us on a budget committee, two of us on the CIP, but at the end of the day, we're all making a decision. Let's at least everyone be able to hear and find out.
I agree.
Is this really an urgent issue or not from an expert?
Lightcap discusses.
By Mr. Lightcap, exactly.
And-
So is that a
Let's
motion
focus
I
on
put
that.
forward
Yes,
right
and,
now?
and then again, if the committee of the whole decides not to put it in next fiscal year, then we don't even have to deal with it as a budget issue.
But
But
again-
it is well taken. I've invited it. I think Mr. Maynard is joining in. I think we all want to be satisfied. If we're going to spend the money, whether in 2012 or 2013 or 2014, we know we're going to do either part of it or all of it, and why that particular. Obviously, if it's advanced, more competing interest is not get sucked into later years where it's going to cost more. So I want to hear from, whether it's Mr. Lightcap or someone better, or two people, Russ Lightcap and someone else. I personally would like to hear from those who've done this for 40 years for a living and know the curriculum. It's not like, doing construction on houses. There's all kinds of construction. And Mr. Lightcap did road construction for what? Caltrans, OCTA?
Caltrans, yeah. He's also our project manager for the Montecito parking lot.
Yeah, and he did a phenomenal job there.
He did.
So I would really like to hear from the man, because he...
We're all in agreement.
I think he's
I think we are.
So,
Getting an
I'd
understanding.
like to make a motion that we have a combined CIP budgetary meeting where we solely discuss that prior to the July board meeting.
Actually,
Ask you a friendly
Actually-
you need a
consideration
committee
of
as a
special.
whole, because you don't want...
There's actually a motion on I think.
Oh, there was?
I think.
Is yours for a special meeting?
I'm not sure.
Did he,
Well,
like you made a motion, then I think
I
that's right.
was about to make a motion.
Well, I'll make you,
If we did it as a special meeting where he comes and speaks to the entire board,
Correct.
because that would at least everyone would get to hear it
Everybody will
firsthand.
hear the same thing.
That is what I'm recommending, versus just the three of us,
Yeah, I think we all agree on that.
which is
It
still,
seems.
which is an open board meeting anyway.
I second that motion.
Alfred and Ron should be able to listen to this too.
Beat you to it. Okay, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed? No one is opposed. All right, so at least we have a consensus to hear from the expert on that. Mr. Burgess, your comments, please.
Thank you. Dave Burgess. Firstly, I just got received public documents today where I first was aware of Mr. Lightcap. He did an extrapolation of the cost to do this parking lot versus the other, and the cost for asphalt, a little vague on the details, whether it's prep or just laying asphalt, but the bid that is in the $200,000 range plus the management fees has asphalt paving in there for $345 a foot. I have a bid in hand replacing the full parking lot, full demo, route demolition, repaving, recompacting, mobilization and demobilization. That's a great phrase for $130,000 versus your $190 plus contingencies. I don't have a lot of confidence in Simplus management. They failed at the tennis courts. The most important day besides receiving bids was being there the day the concrete was poured and noting the inch of water that was on top of it that's causing the cracking. Last month, Mr. Ripp said that it's a need, not a want, when I talked about polling the public. I think there's some work that needs to be done. I have bids in hand from $16,000 to $40,000 for repairing, resurfacing, and restriping that parking lot. A lot of the damage is from the tree roots. Part of my bids under $40,000 are removing about 25 feet out, cutting the roots out, replacing that asphalt, patching the east end entrance right here where there's deterioration in the asphalt. That asphalt deterioration is caused by the lack of maintenance on the parking lot and not turning the sprinklers around that are pouring water into that east entrance every day. They have 12, just off the top of my head, I may be randomly speaking, they have $12,000 in there for striping it. The highest bid I have, they said, was $1,000. I have a bid today for $3,500 for the striping, new parking stumps, whatever they're called, new signs, everything. So it's not $12,000.
Can I ask you one thing, though? You're an individual not doing business as a government agency.
Correct.
When you sought this information, did you make them, whoever they are, understand that they have to bid at prevailing wage and have all the requisite insurance, bonds, what have you? I'm not versed in government contracts. That's not what I do.
Correct.
But did you communicate such?
I got a couple bids and I went back to them subsequent to that. I only saw today that it would have to be prevailing wage. And I went back to them and it's not $20,000 on the $120,000. Most of the work, the demolition work, is going to be performed by a guy in a huge tractor with a spotter. He's going to pull the asphalt out. And by the way, when they do new asphalt, I've spoken to 3 individuals who are salespeople for asphalt companies. Their first response is, why are you replacing this parking lot? There's nothing wrong with it besides repairs.
Well, Mr. Burgess, it sounds like you are very concerned about the parking lot, and I'm glad you are. I would invite you to attend the special meeting, and the materials will be available 3, 4, 5 days in advance as we're required to notice the meeting and to make the materials available. Bring your questions, bring your materials, and let's properly vet this.
Right.
And
I agree. I'm a contractor that's been told I can be a contractor but not criticize the projects, or I can be a resident and voice my concerns. So from a personal ethical resident standpoint, I'm voicing my concerns. Also in that bid, through Simplus, they have asphalt at $3.45 per square foot. That is at least, it's 2 times the market rate based upon public entity asphalt work bid. I've had 3 asphalt contractors out here, 1 concrete contractor who lives in the neighborhood, which we never utilize those resources on a free basis versus paying an outside entity to give us some official report, which disturbs me a lot. He could redo that whole parking lot, 6 inches of base, 6 inches of concrete, for less than the bid that you have from Simplus. It's not a bid, it's a cost estimate. I appreciate that. For less money that you'd never have to replace.
Well, hopefully you can bring this all up at our special board meeting so that, you know, we're enlightened on all
Well,
of
the
these
last time I was,
items and more.
yeah, on April 16th, the last
Right.
official budget meeting that was at this park.
Okay?
The problem is that there's a public announcement 3 days legally according to government rules or laws, I assume. But unless someone walks physically up to the signboard and sees that there's a meeting 72 hours later, we don't know. So if I'm personally communicated to about this information, I will attend. And Mr. Lightfoot's estimate extrapolation of the Montecito parking lot at $8 per square foot over this parking lot is about 4 to 5 times higher than their current commercial, well-known asphalt company bids.
I'd be interested in looking at your materials at that special meeting and contrasting that with what we'll be reading and hearing.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding H1 again, Mr. Taboada, we've had one motion. We're receiving your report this evening. We'll have input at the special meeting. Depending on the calendaring of that special meeting, it may or may not coincide with our July 10th regular meeting.
Correct, sir. You can direct me to issue a notice for that meeting, and if subsequent to that it becomes apparent that we need to go to August, we simply amend it for the following. But I'm asking you to make a motion to direct me to set that public hearing for the July meeting in anticipation of a favorable discussion at your special board meeting. And oh, by the way, all special board meetings are on our website, so.
That's what I thought. I'm glad you brought that up so we get clarification. Is this board available through the end of June up through July 3rd, the day before the 4th of July?
Yes.
Mr. Casey, are you in town?
Depends on exactly what date. I'll be gone the last week of June or most of it. Like from about the 24th to the 28th.
Well, then that means next week.
Sometime next week.
Are we actually looking at calendars?
Can we do it that quickly?
So look at calendars?
If we can, so we give him some guidance.
We can.
The
Depends
question
on your,
of what we can do.
but it's your availability that's in question. I mean, we'll.
I'm
we'll
available, so I'll leave
I'm
it.
available all next week.
As am I.
I am as well.
Mr. Rips?
I am not available Wednesday night. Tuesday would be, I prefer not. Monday and Thursday I am.
I prefer Thursday.
Thursday?
Thursday.
Done.
Okay. That takes care of that.
I hope you're available.
Hopefully we'll meet our July deadline and.
So that's
And
June 21st?
hopefully that works with the asphalt guy.
Thursday, June 21st.
That's right.
Hopefully Mr. Lightcap will be available.
May I have a motion then on setting the date of public hearing?
So made. Does anyone want to second it?
So, a second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Taboada.
Just time on the meeting, are we, sometimes we have them earlier, sometimes what's the,
I'm open to whatever is good for everybody. So we'll let Mr. Taboada send an email out tomorrow.
Yep.
okay, that's fine.
Okay?
Good enough.
All right, can we proceed then to H2?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. President, members of the board, before you is a second amendment to an amended and restated agreement with Kelran LLC for tree consulting services. That's our agreement with Randy Reynolds to do our tree consulting work. This is the second year of a 3-year agreement. I'm asking for your approval to that agreement. You have in front of you a revised page 2 to that agreement that was submitted to us by General Counsel, and I recommend your approval.
All right, I'd make the motion that we approve the agreement as submitted and revised by the District Council.
Second.
Any further discussion? There's an increased cost of living allowance of 2%. It boils down to basically my math is right, about 58 cents increase per hour.
That's right.
That's really what I see difference, with an annual increase of basically $590. So the total aggregate increase is $590 more to the district to retain Mr. Reynolds and to do the excellent service that he provides us.
Yep, sounds fair.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. H3.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm asking that you approve a new 3-year agreement with West Coast Arborist for park and parkway arborists and tree maintenance services. We have a long-standing relationship with West Coast Arborists. They're a very competitive firm. They're asking for a 3-year agreement, withholding their prices for this year as the same as last year. So we'd only have to deal with a CPI increase in year 2 and 3. We have no issues with West Coast Arborist. They perform admirably, and they are adaptable to our changing needs, and I recommend your approval.
All right, anyone who would like to make a motion?
I motion that we authorize Mr. Tabata to execute a new 3-year agreement with West Coast Arborists.
Second.
Any further discussion? They agreed to a lock on their rate for the first year.
Correct.
Any discussion between yourself and them regarding the years 2 and 3?
They're only asking for a CPI increase, so it's not that they're changing their price schedule dramatically. It's in the current economic environment, it's almost a minimal increase for their
It
cost.
should be very slight based on the way the economy is today.
Right.
Right. They didn't even ask for, any adjustments. They simply said, if we'll hold our price for the first year, and all we ask for is the CPI for the second and third year.
Sounds fair.
All right, call for the question. Is that everyone ready? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Now we go to the general manager items.
Mr. President, members of the board, as you know, and hopefully the public knows, that this district, through Assemblymember Silva, asked for an Attorney General opinion regarding the district's ability to contract with the Sheriff's Department for core services. At the same time, while this was going on, San Bernardino LAFCO, through its elected official, requested an Attorney General opinion to determine whether or not an unincorporated territory could be broken up into parcels of less than 150 acres to avoid having the election approval process denied. Both of those opinions were released last week, and both of them were very favorable to the district in terms of its governance. As I indicated earlier, we pulled item G2 because we're in conversation with our legal counsel regarding our options with regard to how to proceed with these attorney opinions, and also how to proceed with requests for information that we have asked of the county. All of this is leading, hopefully, to a conclusion at some point in time where we can match up resources to legal opinions to be able to get a latent powers application in front of LAFCO and have at least the opportunity to present a case that, by granting of those latent powers, that there is both the management and the economic wherewithal to pay for those and not burden the community with additional costs. At your next meeting, I think we'll be prepared to deal more comprehensively with what our strategy is for moving ahead with the governance. But all in all, we can say that the last 2 weeks have been quite favorable. You mentioned also during your discussion on the budget that we're moving ahead with the placement of signage identifying what has been called the fourth corner, the Rossmoor Shopping Village, with identification that speaks to its identity with the community of Rossmoor. I can report to you today that we've crossed the hurdles with county planning, and now are in a position to approach the property owners on a formal basis and ask for their permission to put these signs on their property. Once we have that approval from the property owners, the next step would be to obtain proper permits from the county, contract for the work, and get those signage placed appropriately within the shopping district. I stand ready to answer your questions.
Mr. Chaba, there's been some discussion in the public about to what end we're pursuing latent powers. Could you refresh my memory what the community's consensus was during the survey when asked their being inclined to go with latent powers or disinclined to support latent powers if there was no cost, that is, no additional cost to a resident? Do you remember that question vaguely?
I do, sir. Basically, when the community was polled by Probalski Research, one of the questions was, do you support the undertaking of latent powers by the district when it's at no cost to the district? And I believe the percentage was 69.9% that people favored the district assuming those latent powers. Now, it's pretty obvious from that poll that most of the community favored no changes whatsoever, but that option really is being foreclosed on us by pressure from the county and from LAFCO to do something different than just stay the same. But as far as the poll results were, I think they were overwhelmingly supportive of the district moving ahead with latent power.
It's also been commented that this conflict that exists in Mr. Morlock's ideation of what is best for Rossmoor is in juxtaposition to where the community has communicated to this board it should be taken. Was there a question posed to the community of Rossmoor through this same survey as to the board, community satisfaction with the board and its decisions, how it conducts its affairs on behalf of the residents?
Well, the question that was asked, as I recall, was that what was the rating for Supervisor Morlock in this community, and it was overwhelmingly unfavorable.
What did the community think of their view as to the board, the current composition of the board, and its handling of the day-to-day affairs as they're brought to us on a monthly basis? What was their percentage?
About 80% was the favor.
What's that number?
80%.
80%.
In favor of the RCSD's mission and the way it conducted its business. There's also.
I'm sorry, Kutcha.
I was going to say there's also been some chatter, if you will, about the hiring of legal counsel for special counsel for various legal issues that crop up as we wend our way through this minefield. And I think it needs to be said that when the district hires special counsel, they're not paying 2 or 3 different lawyers for the same thing. When general counsel has a conflict or is unable to provide the services needed by this district and it hires special counsel, that's a substitution of expense from one firm to another. So it's not like you're paying 2 lawyers to do the same thing. So even if general counsel did not have a conflict, it would still cost you the same to determine your legal position with all of the issues that have surfaced with regard to governance.
Have you been made aware that Best and Krieger has a conflict in continuing to represent the district as general counsel?
Well, the first conflict that arose was when we filed an application with LAFCO for latent powers, for incorporation in 2008. And BVK basically said, we also represent LAFCO, so we're conflicted out.
Meaning Orange County LAFCO.
Sir?
Meaning Orange County LAFCO.
Orange County LAFCO, correct. So that meant Orange County LAFCO wasn't going to change counsel. We were asked to change counsel. So that's when you hired Janet Morningstar to deal with those LAFCO issues. When we met with county council with regard to the district's tree policy and the approach that has been taken recently by Orange County Public Works, that they can remove a tree whenever they deem it to be a hazard or a risk to the public. In fact, they did it without consulting the district. And so we approached their county council and had a discussion with our general counsel, and we talked about how we might resolve this issue. And at that time, we were told then by BVK that they also represented the county, and that if it proceeded to anything beyond the discussion of an informal agreement, that they would be conflicted out as well. So we've been conflicted out now on two major issues affecting the district.
Will the Attorney General opinions be posted on the website?
Yes, Liz, are they there now?
They will be.
Well, they will be. We have copies that we presented copies here today for the public.
The Attorney General opinions that were the opinion published on our behalf through Mr. Assemblyman Jim Silva, was that at a cost to the district? Meaning, was there any financial cost attributable directly to us with the Attorney General publishing an opinion?
Only to the extent that General Counsel assisted us in drafting the opinion request for Assemblymember Silva. After that point, the state took over that, and we experienced no other costs.
Meaning just the letter of request from Mr. Silva to...
Correct, the drafting of the request.
What was that, like $200?
I don't recall, but it was de minimis.
So it was a small amount.
Correct.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Tabwater?
Well, I mentioned that we had requests for information from the county, and we're awaiting that, and we'll see where that develops.
When is the date which they must either produce or request an extension? Is that
Well, we're in the 10-day cycle now, and if they request an extension, they get another 21 days, I believe.
They did make requests?
Not yet.
Not
They're in conversation with our financial consultant and with our legal team to clarify some of the requests that were made so that they can better respond to them. I think when it was made clear to them that they'd already responded in kind when they did the 2008 CFA, that they couldn't hide behind the fact that they didn't have the information. It's a question of how they go after how they dig out the information and what methodology they use to extrapolate the cost for Rossmoor.
Right.
The other,
If they choose to drag this out, is there any limit on the number of times they can ask for additional extensions of time before they reply?
we've never ever run across that issue before, so I'm not certain what happens if at the end of the extension period they haven't produced the data. They seem that, at least in the conversations that are taking place now, make it appear that they're sincerely cognizant of their responsibilities to respond. Now, what we get will determine what our next course of action is.
Okay, well, we'll just hope that they comply with what they seem to be intending on doing.
Statutorily, there's a provision for one continuance, which Mr. Tabawada alluded to. Beyond that, they have to make a motion in court
Right.
to get a court to approve, because obviously the requesting party, being us, do not have to agree to grant them a continuance or an extension beyond what statutorily they are permitted.
Good stuff.
So to protect oneself, I would assume the county council will be responsible to go to a judge, to calendar it, saying we're going outside the statutory provisions, there's a reason for it, we would like your approval, and if they don't get that approval, then there'll be a hearing as to why or why not it should be granted, why or why not, is this a good faith request, what is so burdensome in the request, all those things need to be vetted out, and so I think we just have to see how it
Progresses,
out,
yeah.
moves
Thanks for that
forward.
clarification.
The only other issue that is pending with regard to governance is that the Orange County Grand Jury, of course, has published a report on special districts and how they manage their finances, and it's a report that is staggering in its conclusions and its recommendations in the sense that the report is totally subjective. I think it's predetermined findings, and we are in the process of responding to it. It took all of Orange County special districts and basically lumped them together and analyzed their financials and their audit reports and what have you, and reached some conclusions that just defy me as to how they made those conclusions, particularly when we had pointed out to them the inaccuracies that they were reporting in their draft report and which they ignored. So we are in the process of submitting a reply back to the presiding judge of the Superior Court, and when that reply is complete, I'll be bringing it to the board for approval to submit to the presiding judge of the Superior Court of Orange County. Every special district that we've been in contact with has basically taken the same position, that this was not a fair assessment of the value and the dedication of special districts in providing services to the communities in Orange County. So we'll see where that takes us.
I think people's memories are short, or they forget about other bordering counties such as Los Angeles, where discussion was made publicly to the dissolution of Vernon. The city of Vernon, given that the overhead was abundantly greater than what was warranted to run a small municipality, and there was discussion that what will replace the municipality once it's dissolved. And the idea came up with a special district. And the reason is it'd be one comparable to what we have here. It's all contracted. A contract like a city or a contract district, they both have the same mode of operation. And the basis for that was because it was economically prudent, and for the 200 residents that solely reside within the boundaries of Vernon, that would be the best way for the use of their money.
How about
the taxes? And I'm thinking, why is that so forgotten? Why is it good for some people and not good for others? And it just baffles me how people's memory is very, very selective on what they would like to bring forward and say is a prudent and a good government, as opposed to requesting the homeowners to join into other communities to have to pay utility taxes and be saddled with underfunded pension liabilities. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. But anyway, be that as may, that's where we're at.
The grand jury will also be publishing another report shortly dealing with transparency with regard to salaries and benefits and pension costs for special districts and cities and the county. We've just gotten a look at the draft report, and as soon as I can, wend my way through it, I'll be reporting back to you on what the contents of that are. But
let's just keep marching along.
Oh, well, they're costing us a lot of resources, you know, while challenging the way we spend our money.
Can we send in a request?
Lose-lose proposition.
How about we send in an invoice to District 2 Supervisor asking compensation for...
That's excellent.
Poorly written report.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job on fact-checking, so they probably will do a bad job now and make all kinds of things up.
As a final item, Mr. President, members of the board, I'm going to formally begin the recruitment process for the hiring of a new part-time special general manager for the district, and in accordance with the directive of the board of directors, I will be stepping back as soon as you appoint a new general manager, and I will come and remain available to you as your consulting external affairs consultant, and happy to do that on your behalf. So,
clearly, that can't be accurate, right? Did you read this? I mean, this seriously trying to keep his job is what Morlock says about you, Mr. Taboada. So are you sure you're trying to step back? I'm confused which person I should actually believe in this case.
I hate to rain on his parade, but I have been progressively asking you to work less hours, less days, and you've granted me that privilege. And I think that you've taken the final step in my departure.
All right, well, I'm going to take you on this one. Sorry, Mr. Morlock.
That's it, Mr. President.
Okay,
members
about
of the
board member items. You want to start off?
I'm good for tonight.
Mr. Maynard?
Yeah, obviously, we're talking about some of the statements that our supervisor, John Morlock, has put out. And I don't understand when he says the RCSD is on a strange quest, obviously talking about latent powers. I don't believe that when a board actually is trying to have decisions that affect Rossmoor be made by people in Rossmoor instead of supervisors who don't care, or supervisors who have their own political agendas. I myself don't find that to be a strange quest. There might be people in the community who might disagree with us, but just in general, I think at least my philosophical view is the more people in Rossmoor who can make decisions that affect Rossmoor, that just seems to be prudent. And I think Mr. Morlock, or Supervisor Morlock, is out of step. And then when he tells us that we would be better off being annexed by Los Alamitos or merged into a super city, well, it's nice to have an opinion, Supervisor, but that is not the will of this community. Over and over again, we just want to be left alone. So I'm just amazed at his pride, his ego, and his silly statements, and why he continues to talk about us when I really don't want to talk about him much anymore. So my comment here is, think before you speak, because some of the things that are covered by the press, Supervisor Morlock, are just inane comments, and that's not what this is all about. So I want to continue asking for people in the community to be participants in the community. I'd much rather have community activity than apathy, and I think we're very fortunate to be in a community that cares about what happens here. And that's all, as a board at least, I'm speaking for me, but I think all aboard we'd nod our head that we're all doing this because we love this community, and we think it's more important for us to have say than out-of-touch supervisors who really don't care at all.
Up to me now, okay.
Mr. Kaler seems to have granted you his time.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what
what
the nod meant,
Deserve,
but thank you.
to the distinguished, very distinguished Director.
Thank you very
Honorable
much.
Mr. Casey.
Along the lines of what Mr. Tabuada was saying about the grand jury report on special districts, I'm very happy to say that I'll be attending a meeting this Thursday morning that's being hosted at the ISTOC headquarters. I guess it's the water company building in Fountain Valley, and it's put on by both LAFCO, ISTOC, and CSDA, where they're going to be issuing a rebuttal to the Orange County grand jury report. And I'm sure, as all of us on this board have pretty strong feelings about that document and it's what it represents or does not, that I'm very interested in what their findings are, and they're going to allow for comment. So unless a lot of it's in line with what I'm hoping they'll be saying to represent Rossmoor's thoughts, I'll be more than happy to present what I believe is the view of Rossmoor and all our residents and board members. So that's between 9 and 10:30 this coming Thursday morning, 2 days from today. And the other item is I just want to I want to thank Mr. Tabuada for what is, I'm sure, going to be a smooth transition to another general manager, and I'm looking forward to working with him and well, I guess it's a reduced capacity, but we'll still have him as a special consultant, so I'm happy that you're still going to be around for the foreseeable future. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you.
I have two requests. I'm delighted we got approval from the County of Orange for our wall signage.
Well,
I was hoping that now that that's behind us, could we get a thumbnail sketch as to how much the cost will be? We talked about this last month, and I never got a number. So maybe for the special meeting next week on the 21st, we could cover that ground just a little bit.
Surely.
Maybe Cheryl Williamson might have some details of what she thinks it might cost. Maybe she'd like to.
Oh, we know the construction costs. What we don't know is the permitting costs.
I know.
But
Yeah. And my second request is, given that there's so much conflict, I shouldn't use that word. There appears to be at least 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes of a contact with district council. And inasmuch as the board took action at a special meeting a few weeks ago or a week ago with regards to the retention of Jenkins and Hogan for work, I would ask that the calendar for the 21st, a discussion on who is best to represent the district concerning the AG opinions and conferring with the county council.
Okay.
That's all I have. Other than that, if there's no other matters, a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.